Alright, hello everybody. This is kind of just a Cosmo mouse update. First off, I just want to say, ZA13, it's been really, really great. I'm still waiting a little bit. As you guys know, I am on a collegiate Overwatch team. And I'm still waiting to play a few more matches with this mouse before I can really come up with a conclusion for it. And do a full review. So, full review, totally coming. But just not quite yet, but stay tuned for that, probably within a week or so. But I just want to give a quick mouse update on my setup. So I've gone back to the Fnatic Dash with the Hien on top, which doesn't actually change anything for the mousing experience. It just means that the keyboard sounds a little different because the Fnatic Dash is it's around the same thickness as the Glorious 3XL, which is what I was using beneath my Hien before. But it's just much harder to push into, and it feels nearly solid. In fact, if I actually move, it's not actually going to show up that well on camera. My point is, it's pretty, it doesn't have much give to it. So it changes keyboard acoustics, but for the most part I just changed it because of how it fits on my desk. I do have a Aqua control pad, whatever the X-ray pad's control pad is. I have one of those coming in the mail that's going to make up the new base that I put my Hien on top of. So it's a super small thing to the setup, but figured I'd mention it. Now, in terms of mice, I'm not sure if last time I showed you guys this mouse, it had the Tiger Arcs and the Paracord. The Tiger Arcs are something new I'm trying. Honestly, the reason I got these is because I was ordering my cable from Agile Cables. They do 3D printed stress reliefs, and I wanted to try that out. So I wanted to get aftermarket feed and didn't want to order from a second supplier, and it was like $10. So I was like, fuck it, I'll try the Tiger Arcs. And so I'm just gonna do a quick little mini review of those. So this is my black ZA13B. This one I have not been using just because I prefer the glossy. But this one has hyperglides on it, so I'm just going to do a quick little glide test for you. So this one, I'm going to use the same amount of force for each. So this is just wrist movement. That's the ZA13 with the hyperglides. Moves about that far, and then ZA13 with Tiger Arcs. Moves a little bit less. I'll do that again. See, moves a little bit less. That's with the same amount of force provided. That being said, the amount that it moves is not indicative of how smooth it is. The smoothness experience is very, very similar. I might put the hyperglides as a little bit smoother, but I think that's just because there's less friction with the hyperglides. So the hyperglides are certainly an experience with a lot less friction, versus the Tiger Arcs have a little bit more friction. That being said, once it gets moving, they are just as smooth. It's just a matter of that friction. So personally, I think I prefer the hyperglides. It is also what I'm used to. Up until this glossy white ZA13, I had been using hyperglides on all of my daily driver mice, because before this I used the FK2. I've also used the original G Pro Wireless a lot, which I have hyperglides on, and the G403, which I have hyperglides on. So I'm very much used to this hyperglide feel, which is probably why I prefer it. But it's just a more frictionless sensation. That being said, I also definitely prefer the hyperglides on the Hien mousepad, because if you guys remember from my original Hien mousepad review, I guess it wasn't a review. I might do a full-on review of this mouse pad once I try more mice on it. But I want to if I do choose to review this mousepad, I want to have an opinion based on multiple mice, not just this one, because I kind of got these at the same time, and I've been pretty much only using this mouse with this mousepad, and only this mousepad with this mouse. But part of the reason I got this mousepad in the version I did, I got the extra soft because I did want to have this really, really nice glide, but be able to sort of dig in for stopping power. So I've been sort of getting used to the motion of sort of putting more force into the pad when I want to stop. And because of that, I do think that the hyperglides suit what I'm doing with the mousepad more. But that being said, it's just a more frictionless experience, and if that's what you're looking for, then hyperglides are probably better. But the Tiger Arcs do give you a little bit more control. I think if you're already on a control pad and you want more control, go with the Tiger Arcs. If you're on a faster pad and you want more control, go with the Tiger Arcs. but I cannot speak for durability at all in terms of the Tiger Arcs, because I have had these on the mouse for maybe 2 weeks now. I think that's as long as I've had them on the mouse, I'm not sure. But in terms of the Hyperglides, I can really vouch for the durability. This is my FK2B, which I know I've shown you guys a lot, which has the Hyperglides. This is the original pair of Hyperglides that I put on. When you get Hyperglides, they come with 2 sets. And this is the original set I put on, and obviously it's not going to show up on camera. But they are not especially beat up. You can definitely, like, if you look closely, you can definitely see the parts of the feet that get more use than others. But, like, the glide is just the same as it was when I got it. Like, if you want to... Obviously, this and the ZA13B are different mice with different weight distributions and different weights, so the glide isn't going to be exactly the same, but if you look, you see that glide, and then... Oh, that wasn't quite enough force, but, like they're similar glides. So my point is, this is probably 8 months of, like, continuous use. I've used this mouse off and on for, like, a year and a half, but it's probably only had about 8 months of actual continuous use. So in terms of the Hyperglides, I can totally vouch for their durability. I'm not quite sure how much longer I could be continuing to use these mouse feet, but they feel pretty much like I got them on the FK2B after around 8 months of use. So if you're thinking about that and you get 2 sets in the box with the Hyperglides, realistically you're looking at what, like, buying a set every 2 years maybe, and at $15, that's a really good deal. Even if you end up, I mean, like, you can't actually get Hyperglides from any place consistently in stock with free shipping, so realistically you're going to end up spending more like $20, $25 per set. But if you buy in bulk, I mean, if you buy 2 sets at $15, pay $10 for shipping, you're getting, like, what, 8 years of mouse feet for $40. Tiger Arcs, I cannot vouch for, because, again, only been using them on this mouse for maybe 2 weeks, but nothing's changed in those 2 weeks, and there's nothing I've heard online about, like, horrendous overtime quality on these, and there's no amount of, like, if I look at it, there's no spots in particular that have gotten scratched up more than others, and there's no sign that these are going to wear down. So those are the mouse feet. Now, to talk about this cable. So this is the Agile Cables Paracord. Up until now, I've only used Paraflex, but last time I ordered from them, they just took fucking forever to actually put my shit in the mail. And then when it got to the mail, it took forever to ship, even though it was USPS, and USPS lately has been going really quickly. And I just didn't want to fucking deal with them again. Also, I want to try out the 3D printed stress relief, which is... the 3D printed stress relief is sort of the, like, thing that you would go to Agile Cables for. I know Lethal Gaming Gear also does the 3D printed stress relief, although they're not currently selling Paracords. But, yeah, so firstly I want to talk about the 3D printed stress relief. It is a game changer, honestly. Like, it makes your paracording experience much more consistent. It makes it much more easier too. And although you didn't really need to have, like, a hairdryer, or, I mean, realistically you would need a hairdryer or a lighter on hand, and most people do, if you're, like, a fucking 15-year-old boy. Like, I mean, like, I'm 19 now, but when I was 15, I didn't have a lighter, I didn't have a hairdryer on hand. So, like, that's not a big deal, but it's just, it's worth noting. Secondly, you don't need to do the stupid heat shrink. Personally, I'm not too annoyed by the heat shrink, but I will say it takes a long ass time with the hairdryer, which is what I've always done. And if you use a lighter, you need to be really, really careful with it, and you need to make sure you don't actually burn the paracord itself, because paracord like this, if you put heat to it, it will just become solid. Like, you can sear paracord and it can become, like, very, very stiff. So the 3D printed stress relief just makes it a lot easier to paracord the mouse, first off. Also, it is probably better than heat shrink, because, one, it fits into the mouse better. You're going to get a much more consistent fit, because when you paracord a mouse with the heat shrink, especially on Zowie mice, it's kind of difficult to figure out where to put it. I've only paracorded Zowie and Logitech mice, but it's always a little bit weird to figure out where to put the heat shrink. But with this, it's 3D printed. It looks just like the stress relief that you take out of the mouse. So it fits really well. It's easier, and it works really well. I mean, have rarely had issues where I'm like putting my mouse on top of the cable, and you see like right there, I have to like actually purposefully do it. Going side to side, you're never going to get on top. You pretty much only are going to get on top if you're going, in terms of on top of your cable. If you're like going top right and then coming over, you see there's like really only one spot of my mouse pad where I can actually overlap. Also, this is something that is really, really irrelevant, but the paracord that they actually source it from, so I assume most people know this, although I was actually talking with a friend of mine about paracord cables yesterday, and apparently it's, he didn't know, but like paracord is a rope, and they just take the rope and they yoink all the shit out of it, and they just use the casing, because the way they make paracord is it has this casing, and then it has a whole bunch of like little white string inside, and they just yoink all the white string out and put the wires in instead. Wherever Agile Cables gets the actual paracord from, the casing is really soft, and it makes like very, very little noise on the mouse pad, and it just feels nice in the hand. Like, if I'm comparing these two, it's like obviously, I mean, they look super different in the Paracords, but this is Paraflex, this is Agile Cables, and one certainly feels softer than the other. I don't know if that actually means anything quality-wise. I mean, all Paracord is like made for like skydiving or something. It's like, I mean, it can hold like 500 pounds. Like, quality is not, in terms of endurance, is not a thing that's in question when you're getting a paracord. But it is very soft and it feels nice, and that's something worth noting. Because, I mean, all things being equal, having one that's softer is nice. Trying to think if there's anything else of note with this cable. You can select between clear or black USB casings, which is super cool. That's not an option at Paraflex. The color options are really weird. I'm not going to pull up the website. You can yourself. It's just Agile Cables. But in terms of their color options, they have a whole bunch of patterns that other places don't have. But if you want just like a plain color, that's kind of tough. When I was making this mouse, I wanted to just get plain white because I thought it would work well with the whole thing that I'm going with here. They don't have plain white. They have like a cream color. They do have a crimson. But if you want like plain blue, you're kind of out of luck. So in terms of plain colors, it's sort of weird, but if you want patterns, they've kind of got you sorted. Yeah, so I think that's kind of all I have to say about the feet and the cable. And in terms of updates with the setup in general. Oh, wait, there's one more thing. You might have noticed. I am trying out compression sleeve. The Hien is kind of a rough pad. It's not like a big thing, but since I use super low sends, I'm doing a lot of this. And it starts to irritate my lower forearm. And because of the low sense, I also don't want to be wearing like a shirt or a hoodie because I mean, as you can see, like just going like this, it like pulls at my skin. I don't have loose skin, but it's still just like it's pulling at my skin because of how much I have to move my mouse and the coarseness of the pad. So it does the same thing with a shirt. So like wearing a long sleeve shirt just adds to the friction. So I purchased a compression sleeve. It's just like some random ass Under Armour thing. I just went on to Amazon, looked up Under Armour compression sleeve. I know that there are some companies, like specific gaming companies, that make these. I wouldn't fucking buy that. There is nothing about this that is different from anything else. I pretty much only bought the Under Armour one because I have bought Under Armour products before. I used to play sports in high school. So I've bought a lot of Under Armour products before. I'm familiar with like the texture, and I knew it would be what I wanted. But you can buy a fucking Nike one. If you're willing to do the trial and error, you can just order off some random brand off Amazon. I just didn't want to get one and have it be a bad texture. But I have only actually had this for about a day. And I haven't like scrimmed or done a match with it. I've just pretty much played competitive ladder. But I mean, it's not going to change anything about your aim. Like, this is strictly a comfort thing. But it's comfortable. I have not had any complaints with it. It's been comfortable. It's removed that sort of uncomfortability with the roughness of the mouse pad on my lower forearm when moving so much. Weirdly enough, it's actually like made it moving my mouse a little bit easier because I think that I mean, you can see I have hairy arms. I got hair all over. I think that adds to the friction, and wearing the compression sleeve sort of takes away that friction. and it makes it a lot easier to move the mouse in terms of from the arm. Like, there's less, like, this movement is easier. So if that's something you're interested in, I highly recommend it. It's I mean, this one was like $10 shipped to my door. So it's a pretty low cost. If it's something you're like remotely interested in, I recommend it. But this is not something that's gonna like change your aim. This is something that's like, if you're having comfort issues with the roughness of a pad, try it. But it's not something that's gonna like make you aim better. It's just a comfort thing. And if you're more comfortable, maybe you will aim better. But having a compression sleeve is not gonna make you aim better. So yeah, I think that is sort of all the updates to my aiming setup that I wanted to discuss. Expect a full review on this mouse coming in the next couple weeks. Currently, my collegiate team is competing in GGNA, which is a Pro-Am sort of Overwatch tournament. So we have a couple more matches next week. And I imagine after that I'll have a pretty good feel for what I'm liking about this mouse. I also want to like fully get used to it before giving a verdict, because this is a big thing with Zowie mice in particular, or any sort of like new shape, is that I feel like you really need to like use it for a while and figure out what your super comfortable grip is before you can sort of come down with a verdict. There are very few mice that I've ever tried and instantly been good at aiming with. Although that being said, I have certainly not gotten worse at aiming with this mouse. I just haven't had the increases that I was expecting with this mouse just yet. However, slowly I'm getting better and better with it. But yeah, so expect the review on this mouse coming sometime within the next week or two. If you have any questions, as always, I read all the comments, I answer all the comments. I've actually been getting a lot of questions lately, and that's been super fucking awesome. So definitely keep at that. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them. I don't have much better to do. Yeah. One more thing. Speaking of comments, I got a question in the comments asking if I was going to review the Vaxi NP01S. I might. It's not a mouse that I'm particularly interested in trying shape-wise. I am interested in trying Vaxi mice. But the NP01S kind of just looks like an Ergo GPW, and I'm super interested in like the aggressive claw shapes right now. So if Vaxi puts out more of a like S series, XM1 series, ZA series type of mouse, I might try it. Or if the NP01 becomes more easily available, because I actually did try to order it the other day, but the fucking Vaxi website is weird as shit. But so if Lethal Gaming Gear or Addis Inc. or one of those companies starts selling Vaxi mice, then I'll definitely pick up the NP01S and review it. But yeah, if you guys have any other mice you're interested in, I actually have a whole bunch of mice that I've just never shown. So if there's one that you are interested in, I might have it. But yeah, go ahead and leave comments if you're interested in anything, and thank you for watching.